We're back. Welcome back to Powers and Panels, your comics universe, old and new. Episode 5 is here. I cannot believe it. We are actually at episode 5. This is Blaze, and Zoe will be joining soon. And before we get in today's story, and today's story is something else I promise you, we have to talk about the response to last week's question. Zoe asked you last episode, who made the right call? Was it Chris Claremont for sending Kitty Pryde back in Days of Future Past in the comic books? Or was it the filmmakers for sending Wolverine back instead? Drop your answer in the YouTube comments if you have not already. We do want to hear where you are on this, but first I have to go on record where I landed on this because I do have an opinion and I'm not shy about it. Wolverine is who I would pick, definitely. No hesitation on my part. You want to send someone back in time to stop an assassination in a world already full of superpowered threats. You want the man with the unbreakable adamantium claws, the healing factor that makes him nearly impossible to kill. You want the most dangerous mutant on the team, the one who has been in more fights than anyone, who has survived things that should not be survivable, who does not panic, does not freeze, and does not stop. Not taking away anything from Kitty Pryde. She is extraordinary, she is brave, she is brilliant, and she carries that story in ways that are genuinely moving. But if my entire future is riding on one person, I want the man who has come back from worse. I want Wolverine, and that's just being honest, okay? So before I go much further into this, let me bring in my co-host Zoe. Zoe, I want to say welcome back. It's great to see you. A couple of weeks has flown by. How you doing?
Hello, Blaze. I am doing great, thank you. Good to see you too. And honestly, it seems like we were just here. 2 weeks passed. Really? That went fast, but I am so glad to be back here with you for another episode. And I have to say, we are finally talking about that guy in the red and blue outfit, spinning his webs everywhere. Spider-Man! I have to say, I think Spider-Man has one of the best looking superhero costumes ever made. That classic red and blue is just iconic. Anyway, welcome to Powers and Panels, everyone. We are so glad you are joining us for episode 5, and this one is all about Spider-Man and his funny dressed, creepy jungle guy villain named Kraven the Hunter. I already have opinions, many opinions, which I can't wait to share with you all. I'm turning it back over to you, Blaze, for a minute while I get some water, and then I'll be back for my take on the listener question for last week for our last episode. X-Men Days of Future Past. Go ahead, Blaze.
Zoe already has opinions, and before she saves those for later, Zoe, you have been holding your take on last episode's listener question. Kitty Pryde or Wolverine, who do you pick? Who goes back in Days of Future Past? What's your take on this, and who do you pick for this?
Okay, Blaze, yes, I need to go on the record. Sorry, Kitty Pryde, but I want Wolverine on this mission. Nothing personal, because Kitty is genuinely amazing. But you know the guy? The one who is really hard to kill? The one with 6, count them, 6 unbreakable claws and a healing factor that lets him just walk off being stabbed? Yeah, that guy, that is who I want helping stop an assassination. Kitty, you are a queen, but Logan is built different, and I stand by this. Anyway, I will be back at the end with my full hot take on today's story, Kraven the Hunter's fashion sense, and this week's question. Back to our friendly neighborhood comic book guy, Blaze. The floor is yours.
Zoe is so great. She has opinions. She always has opinions. And honestly, I love it because now, before I get into the story, I have to take a moment because this is a big deal for me personally. You may remember at the end of last episode, I said we were keeping episode 5 under wraps, that we have been building towards episode 5 since episode 1, World War Hulk. And if you have been paying attention, you might have a guess. Well, the wraps are off because we are finally here. We are finally talking about the man who spins the web any size, catches thieves just like flies, in the cool red and blue suit, the iconic red and blue suit. We're talking about Spider-Man, baby. Spider-Man, you know the guy, the wall crawler, the web slinger, aka Peter Parker, the man who got bit by a radioactive spider originally, then in the movies they made it a genetically altered spider. The kid from Queens who woke up the next morning with spider powers he had absolutely no idea what to do with. The guy who has Aunt May worrying about him all the time, who juggles being a photographer and a hero and a human being and a high school student or a college student, whatever year the story is for Spider-Man, all at the same time, and who carries one of the most important sentences ever written in a comic book. With great power comes great responsibility. And I can relate to Spider-Man a lot. I mean, I sometimes feel like Peter Parker, and every decision that he makes, you know, he's probably the most human superhero probably ever written, probably in a lot of ways. And that's just the moral spine of the entire character. Every decision Peter Parker makes, every sacrifice, every burden, he carries it all. Every time he shows up when he absolutely does not have to, it all comes back to that one idea. No matter how big the threat is, he goes in ready to throw down with whoever's there. And here is something I want to say about Spider-Man, arguably, and I will take calls in this, but arguably, other than Batman, I do think Spider-Man probably has the greatest rogues gallery in all of comics. I mean, think about what this guy has to deal with on a regular basis. He's got the Green Goblin. He's got Dr. Octopus. He's got Venom. He's got the Vulture. He's got Electro. He's got Mysterio. He's got the Sandman. He's got the Lizard. He's got the Scorpion. He's got the Rhino. He's got the Shocker. I mean, I could keep going. These are not C-list throwaway villains. These are fully realized, psychologically complex characters who have been tormenting this one man for over 60 years. Peter Parker cannot catch a break, and these villains are a big reason why. And today, episode 5, the first episode that we're doing on Spider-Man, we're talking about one of the darkest, most psychologically intense Spider-Man stories ever told. This is not the fun web-swinging adventure. This is the kind of story that may make you sit with it after hearing it and not be able to get to sleep. This is Kraven's Last Hunt, and we will get into it. So let me tell you about a story that changed Spider-Man forever, not for an issue, not for a run, forever. Kraven's Last Hunt was published in 1987, running across 6 issues, Web of Spider-Man 31 and 32, Amazing Spider-Man 293 and 294, and Spectacular Spider-Man 131 and 132, written by J.M. DeMatteis, drawn primarily by Mike Zeck and Bob McLeod. Now, it is known by its tagline, Fearful Symmetry. And that title is doing a lot of work because this story is built on symmetry. The symmetry between hunter and prey, between identity and obsession, between death and what comes after. I am Blaze. This is Powers and Panels. And today we're talking about Kraven's Last Hunt. This one goes deep, people. Okay? So, getting into this story, we need to first talk about Kraven, because Kraven the Hunter is one of those characters who gets underestimated, and I have to say probably the outfit that he wears probably doesn't help. But, you know, the guy walks around, he wears a leopard vest. You know, Zoe is not wrong about her take that she's going to give later. But underneath that fashion emergency is one of the most genuinely genuinely threatening human villains that Spider-Man has ever faced. And when I say human, I mean it as a contrast because Kraven is not a robot, not a mutant, not an alien. He is a man who decided he was going to make himself the greatest hunter alive, and then he actually did it. Sergei Kravenov, aka Kraven the Hunter, is an old money Russian aristocrat who lost everything after the Russian Revolution and rebuilt his identity entirely around one thing: the hunt. Now, he tracked and killed every dangerous animal on the planet, big game in Africa, apex predators everywhere. He was not satisfied until there was nothing left to hunt that could challenge him. And then he heard about Spider-Man, a man who swings through New York on webs, sticks to walls, and has fought every powered threat the city has thrown at him. So for Kraven, Spider-Man is not a crime problem. Spider-Man is the prey that he wants to hunt, the only worthy quarry left. Now, here's where I want to stop and get pretty detailed about what Kraven actually is, because he is not your average hunter. He is more than a normal human hunting man because the casual version of the character makes him sound like a guy in a vest with a net. He's much more than that, okay? So Kraven's physical abilities come from a specially formulated jungle potion, a serum derived from rare herbs and animal extracts that he has consumed for decades. And what it has done to his body is remarkable. So in terms of pure strength, Kraven can press approximately 2 tons. That's 4,000 pounds. For reference, a male silverback gorilla can push or lift roughly 1,800 pounds. Kraven is stronger than that. He has picked up and thrown fully grown lions and tigers. He has brought down a charging elephant with his bare hands. This is not a normal human being. This is a human being who has systematically made himself superhuman through will, training, and chemical enhancement jungle juice. So his speed is just as extraordinary because Kraven can run at approximately 60 miles per hour, roughly the speed of a cheetah, which is the fastest land animal on the planet. His acceleration is described in the comics as faster than the eye can follow. His reflexes are cobra fast. Specifically, his reflex speed has been benchmarked as faster than a striking cobra. Now, he can dodge point-blank gunfire. He can evade Spider-Man's webs in close combat. That is not a feat a normal human can perform. Spider-Man's reflexes are superhuman, and Kraven can keep up with him. So, add to that his senses, which are wolf level enhanced, similar to our six-clawed adamantium skeleton mutant we all love, Wolverine. He can track by scent alone, across distances and through conditions that would defeat any tracking dog. He can see in total darkness. He can hear things at distances that should be outside the human range. He can remember individual scent signatures and pick up trails from almost nothing. He is, in the most literal sense, the apex predator, a human being who has incorporated the best capabilities of the world's most dangerous animals into his body. And his durability is such that he can take a punch from Spider-Man, who can lift approximately 10 tons and can get back up. He can fight for hours without fatigue. His body has been conditioned to absorb damage that would incapacitate or kill a normal person, and he keeps going. He is not invulnerable, but he is extraordinarily hard to stop. So when we talk about Kraven versus Spider-Man, we're not talking about a man versus a superhero. We're talking about two apex predators, one natural and one scientific, going after each other with everything they have. That context matters enormously for this story. Now, there's also the psychology to this story because Kraven's obsession with Spider-Man is not just competitive, it's borderline crazy obsession based, because he does not want to simply defeat Spider-Man. He does not want to kill Spider-Man and be done with it. He wants to be Spider-Man, to prove that he is not just equal to the hero, but superior. That he can do what Spider-Man does better than Spider-Man does. This is the core of the story, and this is what makes it so much darker than a standard villain arc. So the story opens with Kraven, who actually is in a moment of absolute stillness. He is hunting, but not yet. He's preparing mentally and physically for what he has decided will be the final hunt of his life. And from the very first pages, DeMatteis signals that this is not a typical Spider-Man villain story. The narration is Kraven's inner voice, and it's not the voice of a man planning a fight. It's the voice of a man preparing for a ritual. Now, Peter Parker in this story, a.k.a. Spider-Man, is recently married to Mary Jane Watson when this story takes place. Now, this matters enormously to the emotional weight of what comes next, because Peter has something to lose in a way he has not always had. He's happy. He's settled. He is, for a rare moment in his life, doing okay. And DeMatteis is about to take that and grind it into dust. Kraven ambushes Spider-Man, and he does not just win the fight, he wins it decisively, using a tranquilizer compound he has specifically engineered to work on Spider-Man's enhanced physiology. Spider-Man goes down hard, and then Kraven does something that no Spider-Man villain has never done before, and few have matched since. He shoots Spider-Man, puts him in the ground, and he actually buries Spider-Man. Let that sink in for a minute. He put Spider-Man in the ground and buried him. Not metaphorically. He literally buries Peter Parker alive in a coffin beneath the earth. And then, and this is the part that made readers in 1987 genuinely lose their minds, Kraven puts on a Spider-Man suit and starts operating as Spider-Man in New York City. This is not played for comedy. This is not a con or a deception scheme. Kraven genuinely believes that by defeating Spider-Man and assuming his identity, he can do what Spider-Man does better. He goes out as Spider-Man and starts hunting criminals, and the terrifying thing is he is effective. He is brutal, and he is relentless. The criminals that he hunts are genuinely afraid of this Spider-Man in a way that the real Spider-Man's approach, which has always included restraint, always included a line he will not cross, does not always produce. Kraven's Spider-Man has no line. So meanwhile, Peter Parker is buried underneath the ground in a coffin, and this is where DeMatteis goes somewhere that superhero comics almost never go. He explores what being buried alive actually does to a person. The fear, the darkness, the way time becomes meaningless, the physical deterioration, and underneath it all, the question that Peter cannot stop asking himself: who is he without the costume, without the powers, just a man in a box in the ground? What is that man worth? Now, he survives. Of course he survives. This is Spider-Man we're talking about. He claws his way out after 2 weeks in the ground. He is emaciated, disoriented, filthy. He can barely stand, and he has to find Kraven and stop whatever this has become. So when Peter finds Kraven, and he does find him because he is Spider-Man, the confrontation is not what you expect. It is not a rematch. It is not round 2 of their earlier fight with Spider-Man getting his revenge. It is something much stranger and in many ways much more affecting. Kraven does not fight him. He has achieved what he came for. He defeated Spider-Man. He proved that he could do what Spider-Man does. He has hunted and overcome the greatest prey he has ever pursued. The obsession that has driven his entire life, the need to be the greatest hunter, to prove his supremacy over every challenger, is satisfied. He is done. He tells Spider-Man that the hunt is over, that he won, that Spider-Man is free to go, and then he walks into his mansion, and Sergei Kravinoff, the greatest hunter who ever lived, ends his own life. So he does not die in battle, not fighting, not in the act of the hunt. He dies in a moment of absolute peace because he has accomplished the only thing he ever truly wanted, and there is nothing left to want. He has been the best, he has proven it, and that's all there was. So I want to sit with that for a second because it is genuinely unlike almost anything in mainstream superhero comics at that time to see. Kraven not does not die, in battle or because the hero defeats him. He does not die because his plan fails and building collapses on him or something like that. He dies because his plan succeeds, because he achieved his life purpose and discovered, as people sometimes do, that the achievement offered no peace at all. The hunt was his meaning, and when the hunt was over, the meaning was over as well. So Demantis had talked about this in interviews. He was exploring ideas about spirituality, about the hunger for meaning, about what happens when a life organized entirely around external achievement reaches its logical conclusion. Kraven is not presented as a monster in the story, or at least not only as a monster. He is presented as a deeply tragic figure, a man who was genuinely extraordinary, who had genuine talents and abilities, who spent everything he had on a purpose that could never actually deliver what he needed. This is not just a villain story. This is a story about a certain kind of human emptiness. And what does Peter take from this? That is the question the story leaves open. He was buried alive for 2 weeks. He was erased, replaced, made irrelevant by a man who could imitate him but not be him. He has to sit with the knowledge that Kraven, who hated him, who hunted him, who put him in the ground, chose to end his life rather than face whatever came next. And Peter Parker, who carries the weight of every death that has ever been connected to him, has to decide what to do with this. The story ends not with triumph, but with weight. That is what fearful symmetry means. Peter and Kraven are mirror images of each other, both defined by their identities as hunter and hunted, both carrying burdens they cannot put down, both facing the question of what they are without their roles. The symmetry is, as Kraven answers that question by ending, and Peter has to keep answering it every day for the rest of his life. So I want to make sure I give proper attention to one element of the story that is easy to overlook, but it's actually critical to what Demantis is building and the Vermin subplot, because it is not just a side story. It is the proof of concept that Kraven needs and that the reader needs for everything that follows to work. Vermin is a minor Spider-Man villain, a man transformed into a rat-human hybrid, living in the sewers, genuinely disturbed and genuinely dangerous. He had appeared earlier and was notable for one thing: Spider-Man, on his own, could not handle him. It took Captain America to bring Vermin down. Spider-Man needed help. This was not a proud moment for our web-spinning guy. So when Kraven, wearing the Spider-Man suit, encounters Vermin during his time operating as Spider-Man, he does not need help. He defeats Vermin alone, brutally, and delivers him to the surface. He does what Spider-Man could not. And this is Demantis being precise about the story he is telling. Kraven is not wrong that he is, in some purely physical sense, the superior being. He is stronger. He is more ruthless. He is more capable of doing certain things that Spider-Man cannot. So the question the story is asking, does that matter? Does being physically superior make you a better Spider-Man? And the answer the story gives through everything that follows is no, because what makes Peter Parker Spider-Man is not the strength, not the webbing, not the wall crawling. It is the moral framework. It is the choice made over and over again in the hardest moments to be something more than just the most dangerous thing in a room. Kraven can imitate the body. He cannot imitate the soul. And the soul is the whole point. So Kraven's last hunt did something to the Spider-Man mythos that has never been done before at that point and never been undone. It establishes that Spider-Man's story was capable of genuine literary tragedy. Not just superhuman tragedy, where someone gets hurt and then recovers and everything resets, but something darker and more permanent. It introduced a villain who cannot be defeated in the traditional sense because he was not fighting for survival, he was fighting for meaning. And when he found it, there was nothing left for Spider-Man to do. The story also changed the template for Spider-Man villains because before Kraven's last hunt, the villains in Spider-Man's world were largely external threats, people or forces trying to achieve something that Spider-Man had to stop. After the story, the best Spider-Man villains became mirrors, reflections of Peter himself, or of aspects of his life, or of fears he carries. The villains' this dark reflection model that would shape everything from the Venom stories forward was crystallized here. So DeMatteis and Zeck almost did something that seemed obvious in retrospect, but was not common in 1987. They took seriously the question of what trauma actually does to a person. Peter Parker is buried alive for 2 weeks. He is not okay when he gets out. He is not okay when the story ends. He is changed. That willingness to let the hero be genuinely damaged, not temporarily inconvenienced, but actually scarred, was a significant departure from the standard superhero approach, and it opened a door that later writers would walk through again and again. The creative team, DeMatteis writing, and Mike Zeck penciling, produced some of the most visually distinctive images in Spider-Man history. The underground sequences, the nightmare imagery, the deliberate contrast between the horror of Peter's imprisonment and the strange, almost peaceful clarity of Kraven's state of mind is an extraordinary work. These are pages that you recognize instantly, even decades later. And Kraven himself, even in death, or maybe especially in death, became one of Marvel's most significant villain legacies. The character has never truly gone away. The Kravinoff family became a major element in Spider-Man stories. The 2010 Grim Hunt storyline built directly on what DeMatteis had established, and the entire premise of our episode 5, the Spider-Man block we have been building since episode 1, is a testament to how central this story is to understanding Peter Parker. So, if you want to read it, and you absolutely should, it's collected as a standalone trade paperback, Kraven's Last Hunt, 6 issues collected together, with all the interconnected storyline kept intact the way it was meant to be read. It is also on Marvel Unlimited. Set aside about 2 hours and read all 6 issues in one sitting if you can. It is designed to be read that way, and the cumulative effect is considerably more powerful than reading it in pieces. Now, all right, I'm going to hand it back over to Zoe, and I already know she's been sitting on approximately 12 thoughts about Kraven's outfit, leopard print, and I'm ready for all of them. Back to you, Zoe. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Okay. I need to talk about this outfit. Blaze spent all that time telling us how terrifying Kraven is. Strongest man alive, cheetah speed, wolf senses. And then I looked up what this man is wearing, and I have questions. Kraven has decided his look is an open chest vest with a lion face, a lion mane collar, and leopard print pants. Leopard print pants, at least 2 different big cats. Large cats, generally. Mission accomplished. You have fully committed. Oh my gosh, and then the feet. Slippers, sandals, not boots. Poor Peter Parker, who has to take this man seriously. Peter, in his beautiful, iconic, timeless red and blue, across from Kraven going growl, I am the hunter, dressed like a discontinued theme park character. Did you hunt your fashion sense and bury it too? But, and this is a very big but, this story made me feel things I was not prepared to feel. Kraven achieves everything and has nothing left. That is not a supervillain thing. That is a life thing. You chase something your whole life, you get it, and the getting is just empty. I was not prepared for that in a story where a man in a leopard vest buries Spider-Man alive. So this week's question: if Kraven had kept going, what would have happened to Spider-Man? Is he the one villain Peter could never truly defeat? Drop your answer in the YouTube comments. Blaze and I will read the best ones next episode. Can't wait to be back in a couple weeks. Wrap it up, Blaze.
Okay, that question is going to stay with me for a while. I will tell you that right now, because I think the honest answer is uncomfortable. Thank you for listening to Powers and Panels. I am Blaze. You just heard from Zoe, my trusty sidekick, and we will see you in 2 weeks for episode 6. We are staying in the Spider-Man block, and the next one is a story I've wanted to cover since we started planning this show. If you know your Spider-Man history, you may know what is coming, and if you do not, stay tuned. You're about to find out. Until then, please subscribe, please like us, keep reading, keep thinking, and remember, the greatest hunt is always the one for meaning. Find yours. We'll see you soon.